Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. As always, cheers. I'm having my little cafecito. And I wanted to talk about a few things that I realized. It's just like every day there's like a different perspective about the same thing. That's fascinating how it all works. But there is this one same thing, this holographic phenomena, and then there's so many perspectives that you can take and about it. And that trying to sort of like the touch the untouchable, so to speak, is a very interesting game. You know, I think that's the whole game. Actually, I think that's what we're here to do. Um, so one thing I want to mention, one thing I want to talk about, is this masculine archetype of a father, and I found out that there are essentially two types: the logos. Okay, that's the fathering um, structure of consciousness, and it is capable of organizing any kind of chaos at the deepest level. Okay, that's the consciousness calibration and alchemy that we're talking about, which is basically just facing life head on as is and calibrating the best you can, kind of thing, right? Nothing fancy, no trinkets, no religions, nothing. Your life is life, and all the things that you want to realize in your life, that's your game. And here we are. That's what's going on. Not to get distracted, because it's sometimes it's kind of slippery slope. You can slip into the mind and not really notice, like, oh, holy shit, like that's not, no, that's not it. And you lose yourself, and then you know you're now in a belief, and I'm like, oh fuck, I got lost again. And then go back into the calibration. And sometimes when you go back to calibration, it's like, oh, it's like it hasn't been attended for a while, so you got to attend it, you see. And eventually you learn to never let go, to always attend, you know. And even as I'm talking now, so like I said before, um, talking, moving, doing gym, everything you have to relearn of how to do it, because it's like a different motion of consciousness, different energy flow. And it is sort of like energy producing, not energy taking. That's why this part is also very important, because we have to live life energy producing way, which means we are doing it right. And and that energy accumulates into the overflow, right? And the overflow is the gift that comes back to us through our work. Only the overflow. That is how abundance feels like. Sometimes people may say, abundance. But like, okay, when you say abundance, what kind of state do you can call up with that word? What kind of state? You see? And it may be limited. You may not know what the abundance even is. And you may just attach it to some like one temporary pleasant emotion, which is no good. That's not abundance. That, because that kind of stops being abundant as soon as you stop She's like, so there's like an energy wastage, and then eventually you get exhausted because you've been trying to, you know, push that boulder up the hill. You see, and while there was a crane at your side the whole time, right? So we use the crane, we play the game, we basically take like every morning you wake up or whenever you just come back online from all this intoxicating in the realm of thoughts, every time you just woo, oh fuck, I'm back online. I think it's healthy to do like a little bit like logging into the body, you know, protocol. You know, I know it may sound weird because like you are getting into the body, all your energy, engaging your muscles and blood flow, everything, you know, embody the body fully. It's like, okay, here I am in the body. Have in the body experience. Maybe that's how I'll title this one. Have in the body experience. I also think that like if you have in the body experience with what I'm talking about, um, the out of body experience may happen naturally. That's the fucking crazy shit. Not only it is true because it's like when you embody this physical reality fully and go into this vital red shift type of energy, which is a type of state of consciousness and the feeling that stems from the infinite, not the temporal. It does not need to be maintained by the mind. That red shift, bitch. You know what I'm trying to say? And it is a very peculiar type of energy. It's a bit like buzzing bee feeling when you completely embody the body, with all sorts of, you know, other interesting feelings that are happening there, but that they're all ecstatic. So you're sort of like embody the body with the energy, and everything moves with the energy and just charges you because the motion and the sensation is ecstatic immediately. It's self-rewarding. It's just self-rewarding to move. This is why, like, for example, like you, okay, so you may have these blocks, right? You see, like, oh, well, I know I have to do this, and this is, but why the fuck am I not doing this? Like, you know, there's something that I have to do for sure. Like, yeah, but like, I'm not doing this. Like, what the fuck is going on, right? Well, it's because you're still functioning in the mind level. I know, like, this cutoff is such a um, categorical thing. It does not let you get away with the slightest bullshit. And so these blocks only exist in the mind. And you don't have to like fight them or conquer them or anything like that. If you move into this type of mode of being where the motion and sensation is the reward in itself, do you understand? It's happening in real time. Then does it matter what you do? It does not matter what you do. That does not matter what kind of permutation of this virtual simulation you are in. It's like, oh, there's just like different pictures, different sensations, different emotions, but they're all cool. You understand? This is like what I'm talking about, just the LSD like state where it is always available. We just have to go through that uncomfortable, or at least we deem it to be uncomfortable thing. And you can find that through the attention and awareness, as I always say. You always tune it, you know, and sometimes it takes a while to find that. It's like unlocking it. And you may say, well, I already had this figured out before. And it's the same feeling again, and now why can't I figure out now again? Why do I have to like unlock it again? But you do, because that information is a little bit newer, you see. And people say that oh, there's no end to it, right? And then sometimes they may give up on it. because it's just there's no end to it. Yeah, exactly. There's no end to it, but every time that energy comes in, that heavy energy, it's the work that you do to get your gift. So that's the whole point of life when it comes to you, right? Nobody's fault, no, nobody's like, I made that video. Oh man, I'm gonna have to get a massage. I made that video about how there's no actual anybody at fault, because the mechanical motion of consciousness is mechanical. Nobody's driving it, right? That, for example, satanistic or Luciferian motion of consciousness, it is the type of success in the matrix, right? Successful in the matrix. You got to be pretty dark person and get off on some, certain dynamics between people that kind of gets you off. And these dynamics are usually directly related to the wounds or the fragmentation that people have, and did not even start working, on them. You see? And so, sometimes you call like a shadow work. It just, again, it's actually like a really cool name for that process. I prefer calibration, but but it just kind of made to mean something different. It feels like that to me, that it was made to mean something different right now. Because it's sort of like now they do weird things. And like I said, any kind of gimmicks, any kind of weird motions. Like I just saw a video, a guy just basically made a video saying, this is nothing. Like, and there's a woman, they're doing all sorts of like ridiculous things there. As if it has any kind of effect. And if it doesn't have any kind of effect, it's sort of like a, mind control hypnosis. And not because it has power, it's because you've given it power. That's how hypnosis works, by the way. And in learning is amazing. To use hypnosis in learning, it's amazing. To learn and to create and play hypnosis is amazing. Like that's why, like, that relationship there between that masculine and the feminine in the mind is a freaking beautiful relationship. Okay, there's a masculine and feminine relationship in the body, mind, and heart. So you're always having three types of relationships. If you're a man with the woman, if you're a woman with the man, three types of relationships at all times. The matters of the heart, calibration, theurgy, and just making love at the heart. That's the important part. That's like what the actual real love is. Okay, there's if you have that type of heart to heart connection, and which is in the essence is just facing anything and everything that is in between you two, like energetically, and you two never looking away from that thing that separates you, and that's what keeps you together. Okay? And if the thing that is separating you is a kind of heavy one, right, or the big one, that does not necessarily mean that you're not compatible with the person. That just means that there's a capacity for like very deep love, because you do feel that type of separation. You see what I'm trying to say? That's why people, for example, say like, oh, why do people run away from love? Because they do. And why? it is because the separation, to face that separation is hard. You gotta go through war, through the portals, slay a bunch of demons and dragons and whatnot, and you say, because it does not really given to you by default here, no matter whatever these people say that you are, like, by default. At least this is not the game that I signed up, and I think a lot of you, same thing, that you came here to play it for real, you know. um so so sometimes when I feel that type of feeling, that is sort of like there's something in me, between me and a woman, um I go there. And so that's why, like, you have to keep that connection in the heart as a man or a woman close with the other side of you. Like, there is another, like, if you're a man in your heart, you're like light producing, conducing, and you gotta, you cannot live without love. And so you light up the path that leads you to love. That's basically essentially what the man's job is. That's utilizing logos to calibrating your consciousness. It is looking at that thing that's is not love, that is separating you, you know that creates a potential, and then you resolve that energy. And so that's the work of logos, and that's the man's responsibility, and that's the hero's journey. It's internal, it's not visible, and but it's happening. It's not class, I mean, it's not class, it's not showy. You can't make a business out of this, except like showing people how to do this, and then letting them go, loose. Essentially, they don't never need you again about that particular reason. They may be your friend after that, and because now you're in, you see the world this way as it should be, and you are facing the things that are happening as gifts, and knowing that, okay, oh, there's another one to play with, there's another one. And so always keep the connection in the heart, because when you live this life every month, there's a cycle that comes in and tries to separate you in the heart. If you're a man, then to the feminine love energy, the heart and the soul. And then if you're a woman, then that's your job, is to open up to the light, and sort of to the real light. And this, I say, alchemy is a man's job, devotion is a woman's job, but you work together, and a woman is sort of like recognizing the true light and opening up to it, and nothing else, and not opening up to anything else but that precise and the perfect point of light, and that is might be moving and changing. That's why it's supposed to be dynamic. You're supposed to be like following your northern star, so to speak, being a northern star and following a northern star. So, like, I guess the feminine way is following the northern star. You always place your love on that light, you always cater that energy. But usually what some women do, for example, is to look away from it. And the same thing on the man's side. Sometimes just like, okay, that's something to look away from, right? No, that's something to go into. That's the love thing. And I don't necessarily mean romantic relationships. In fact, like, if you really want to work shit out between a man and a woman, it's best that there's no romance there, but love. That's platonic love. I know some of you may be like, what? Platonic love? What the fuck is that? But I'll explain it to you. What? I'll explain it to you. Sit down over here. I'll explain it to you. That's the best shit that you get when you face the things in life that you need to face as a man, and face the things in life as you need to face as a woman. That's how we meet at heart. You understand? That's how you, like, when you meet a woman who's like that and you're like that, you meet at the heart. Not necessarily like your lover or anything like that, but there's this like, poof, I see you, you know? And there's that awesomeness that's happening. And and so you have that connection without any even talk about sex. That connection is beautiful. It is real because it's so authentic. It's not pretentious at all. It's just perfect. It's beautiful, and it's like you know everything, and because you know the woman through the heart, and you know a man through the heart. There's nothing that they can hide. There's nothing that you can hide. It's just like immediately, poof, like, okay, this is me. Okay, this is me, and that's the type of connection that is there, and it's just a complete acceptance, because the more you get naked, the more you get naked, the more you get naked, and then you realize that you're basically like um it's sort of like two sides of the same coin, you know um which is kind of weird. And then there's a whole mind. You see, then there's a whole mind to deal with. That's another world. I started calling them the because we do have a soul, mind, and body, but we also have these locales, which is plasma, phase, and physical. I change it from causal and astral to make it sound, a little bit more contemporary and physic-like. So, smarter looking. So that's why I'm using these words. I'm looking for like the best words for the lexicon of my language of consciousness. This is what I'm trying to say. Because you can use all sorts of different languages, but like the very thing that I'm communicating, I'm trying to make it as non-cultural as possible, as scientific as possible, because then that could be recognized as a state with the label that using. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, and then you can. What I'm trying to say, there has to be an access, a language that is universal to communicate, and of course, it's not just English language in the technical and digital type of informatics world, but it's also one second. Right. It also can be looked at multiple lenses, cultures, and perspectives as all talking about the same thing. And that potentially can unify all the religions. Because I don't think that we can exorcise the religion out of the culture. It's because it became a culture now. It's kind of almost a habit. But we can definitely exercise that, the reason for the gathering, right? Because there's just one view that I have, is that maybe we don't have to, like, reinvent religion. Maybe the religion that we have right now, which was false, maybe that could become true, and now we're just using all of those churches, gatherings, and these trinkets as culture, but we don't really depend on them. It's just like it's a nice tradition. Does that make sense? It's like, because we're all doing the same thing with our consciousness. You can be Muslim, I can be Christian, and like we get it on that deep level because it's the same shit. We do the same stuff. We go through the same time fractals and we deal with the same situations as two different points of consciousness. And then I'm just having different char. I'm just having a different avatar. Mine is Christian, yours is Muslim. And you see what I'm trying to say? It's just a front, a picture for the same thing that we could be doing. You see what I'm trying to say? Because, we all have to have some culture that, we prefer. Like, I can't say that I'm Christian or any kind of, but there's other types of quote unquote religions, like metaphysics, for example, right? It has a potential of being a type of cult, right? Or occult, I'm saying. Let me get some more cafecito. I'm back. All right. Hopefully you missed me. I already know that I am plenty and never enough. Un paradox. Anyway. So I talked about this father-mother role that we have to play in our hearts. Okay? It's a type of connection that we must have first between us. Because our heart has two sides, sort of like. It has our mind has two sides and our heart has two sides. That's why it's in four in total, You got a seed, germ, flower, and I stop screaming. I know, fruit. I know it. So, because that's how the consciousness grows, like blah, 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 boom, and from fruit back, fruit. What does the fruit do? Starts what's that word? Basically decomposing, but there's a better word. Degrading, there's a better word. But anyway, fruit starts becoming manure. And then in that manure, you find that seed again, and then you do it like again. So you see, like your soul, your heart is more like a plant. Take this in your pipe and smoke it. Oh my God, I self-suggested, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to reduce my smoky smokes. But honestly, I come back to at least once or twice a week as to be like my optimal zone. I work hard during the week. It's a lie. Don't believe him. No, but in some ways I do. In other ways I should be, but I'm not. Which, by the way, this is what I'm going to get to. I know. Wait a second. So, yeah, about the smoky smoke. So sometimes they're like, don't, like, for a month or whatever. But then I'm like, what am I doing, There's this other side where you're like, I don't have to be afraid of it. Like, what is it? Does it enhance my life? And it's like, yeah, because I use it sparingly and more like a connoisseur. It fucking enhances my life. I don't overdo it, I know that I should not get past that point where I should not get past that point when I let go of logos, when I'm no longer in charge there, so to speak, right? Because I'm not looking after the plant that meant to be growing. You see, and this is what I've noticed as well. Like, it is essentially you're taking care of the plant, and I take care of my plants, but not enough, honestly. I could take care of my plants better. And that's perhaps a reflection of what I could do better in my own consciousness. I think that just spills out externally as natural outcome of that. Right? But this is the game they're trying to play, is we try to always be vigilant and make sure that the plant is growing. Okay? And so there's that primordial stage seed germ, which is all like mostly like infinite. It has not yet turned into the mind, but it has a primordial capacities of the mind in the soul. It already has that primordial mind sort of being born, right? Where there's the patterns, moving colors, when there's already a meaning, and there's you and the other, and there's a communication there, but perhaps everything is still sort of like just more like a pure data. I call that plasma now, not causal. So that's what I mean, that you could be in with your body, mind, and soul within only plasma. That's the type of locale 3. Robert Monroe was saying locale 3. I call it plasma. And then in that plasma, there are multiple levels that you can be in, right? The same thing in the phase, which is, I used to be calling astral phase. There are stages there too. And just to give you a hint, like Bob was calling it, I'm going to call him Bob right now, as if I'm his buddy or something. Bob, buddy of mine, he was calling it focus 10, focus 12, focus 15, and anything above 20, focus 21, that to me was already no longer a sort of like that plasma, that phase or that astral reality above 21, because it's that, he was calling it that bridge. So you've got like focus 10, which is, he says, like a launching pad of mind awake and body asleep state, right? Focus 10, that is, you are logged in phase. You are in phase, basically, right, at that point. But there might not be any kind of activity going on, right? And so that's why that focus is not yet sort of engaged. But then what you do is you activate, and your sensory motor system in phase. You disconnect from physical and you activate it in phase. So now your physical, quote unquote, reality is in phase. Understand? You took the physical reality with you in phase. And so as you did that, it's actually quite interesting, because you take the whole, like when you go in phase, you take the whole reality with you. Now, when you're gonna get out of phase, you're not gonna come back to the same world anymore. You understand? Because that's how it works. You take that physical reality with you. It's not there anymore when you go to the world of phase. Because do you have any proof that it exists while you're in the phase? Whatever you're doing there, you have no proof that it exists. And it doesn't in that moment. And so whatever the extent that you can make changes in phase, that's the which is primarily mind, that's the permutation of the reality you're going to come back to. No longer the same. Do you see how cool this is? But look, I'm going to blow your mind even more. But that is limited only to this mental phase world, which determines a certain type of permutations of the timelines, right? But not the ideal or more ideal timelines, because there are ideal timelines and then there are very dark timelines. From the darkest to the best, all these timelines exist. All these possibilities exist. So, but that does not change through your phase experiences. You understand? You will only be able to change that content of your consciousness there. The quality is going to remain the same from one or the other. So you can rearrange your mind from one way or the other, but the quality is going to remain the same because you have not actually moved through the timelines. You just in the same timeline but in a different version of it. I'm just going to give a little bit more significance to the word timeline. Jumping timelines, when people say it's not like having phase experience and manifesting something different coming back. You may have made that change, and it's going to take a little time for that change to come in reality. But that's going to be limited to what is changed. But it's important still, right? It's the mind side of reality that is limited, but it is important because you may prefer one type of configuration of your experience than the other. And that is really like your personal preference, and we should be paying attention to what like the mind wants, right? To be how do you position yourself in this world, basically in this simulation. So that's important. But only in the states of phase could you change the quality of your consciousness and therefore select another timeline, enter the parallel universe where those things are more coherent and therefore more ideal timeline. Okay? So, like in my, for example, life, I in my life, I started prioritizing this coherence, the quality of life. And I did not spend enough time, honestly, not as much as I should, in phase, rearranging things the way that I need them to be there, right? It's sort of like I know that I can do it, but I'm too fascinated right now with the coherence. And also I have to say something, because the work that you do in phase, right, that you create something there, may not be even relevant anymore when you jump timelines. So why waste time? Why not select the timeline first and then work on that timeline? At least in that timeline, it's possible for you to fulfill your soul desires, or you're closer to it. That's why I prefer coherence right now, because things are changing too fast, and I'm stabilizing that coherent energy more and more. So that is me selecting this ideal timeline, and sort of I'm fighting for that ideal timeline. But eventually I do have a feeling that like if I keep on doing this, at least I don't know why, just my, at least that's how it works in my reality, or may work in my reality, and it might be the same in yours. But I feel like this is the work that I started like 5 years ago. Not the work, but just fucking really coming online, and not without any kind of bullshit religions like this new age, this like without just cutting all this nonsense out and freeing yourself from that, and just really understanding like what is the most important thing is. It's like, what the fuck, everybody's just lost, and this is the amazing feeling right now. To move through space-time is available to me right now, and I just need to look at the right direction. I just need to listen deeply and see intently. And I'm not talking about external world, it's what's happening inside of you. Look closer and listen deeper of what's happening inside of you. That's all it's asking of you. Okay? So you see that mind side and the soul side, and so that's the nature side and technology side. We have to make them work together. So not only that you have this type of masculine feminine uh, work that you have to do on the soul level, the mind level, and the body level. We're gonna get to it, but also you have to have that balance between the sides of natural soul and the mind tech, right? So you have to have between the mind and soul, mind and body. I take it as one time, space, memory, library, horizontal development, blah blah blah. And then you have the other one that is vertical development, and that is soul world, right? The natural side of it. So, and so there's that relationship between the nature and the tech, which is fascinating, and that boundary we're supposed to pay attention to a lot. Okay, so there's that equilibrium that you can find between masculine and feminine in your soul, mind, and body, playing those three, and then also having awareness of the boundary between the soul and the mind, or the nature and technology. That's why, like, I'm super keen of integrating nature and technology. And like I said, the goal is very freaking simple. I want to make this a thing. I want to make this as a freaking global cultural thing. And I'm talking about these food gardens. It's like a park. It's beautiful. You can chill there. It produces food all the time. It's the Gardens of Eden, right? But and it's possible to do this, and now you have technology that can maintain this. You have all these bots, AI. Can you imagine how beautiful of a thing you can create when technology and nature work together to create beauty and abundance and variety, right? That is, I'm talking about this thing, right? It's just like if a scientist is working on starting up like a nuclear engine, you're starting up this, I don't know, this Garden of Eden engine, and then it sustains itself with a very little maintenance need, and it keeps on producing value, just oozing value, like pure value. Um, that's the project that I have here. Okay, and if this project is successful, then I can show. I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna have to need help from people who are in this permaculture side, and how to use technology and all sorts of tricks. And you see, I'm trying to create this jungle garden of Eden, where animals and plants just grow the incredible variety. It's like your supermarket. You have everything there, and then somehow incorporate another side of it where more bigger animals can be, and that would be like another um, you know sphere of ecology that produces bigger animals, and but they also live like semi-free, like maybe in big reservoir, um, and so you control that reservoir, maybe predators, or very little predators, like, you see what I'm trying to say. You make it into a garden where all the animals can live and thrive and free roaming, and then maybe multiple species in one place. So that's the crazy idea that I have. Like, it's just like, think about like these farms, right? They just farm one thing. It's like, can we not already figure out of how to just have the nature farm, the variety of things in one place, right? And so you don't have to get like that distribution channels, and then these gardens can exist wherever the community needs to be fed. And like a also nurtured by medicinal plants. And so herbalism needs to come back for sure, because that's the real pharmacopoeia, if you will. Nature is your pharmacopoeia. And you can grow a plant, a medicinal plant, for specific reason. And sometimes I think that, like, we all, I kind of not completely complete unless we take something that is compatible with us from nature. I know it may sound crazy, and maybe it's like a excuse for taking supplements or whatever, but I think there's something. I mean, dude, there's something to it, right? Because medicine comes from nature. Most of the medicine comes from nature, and then they synthetically try to imitate it. That's essentially what it is. All these molecules that are naturally being produced are trying to be imitated synthetically, but they exist naturally. So if you just grow that plant, it just doesn't take a while, and to make extract is super easy. And then you make your own medicine. So I see people that produce medicine, that little Garden of Eden produces a lot of variety of medicine, the whole pharmacopoeia side of it, right? Produces food also sort of balanced, right? It produced, and so through technology and little maintenance by a human being, that engine of nature can run and keep on producing like a lot of value. And so that's what I dream about, and these are the things that I do see that is the most important investment right now of time and energy and money, which represents time and energy, in this thing. Everybody's looking about this tech, AI. Is that like, yeah, but what about sustainability? Don't you know that, like, look, like this shit is not secure. Where you live on a shaky grounds. Don't you want to pay attention to that? You see? And say, oh yeah, okay, all right. Is there another way to live on this planet? Right, all the same resources, but redirecting it in a different way. Okay? And I'm gonna write some book about it and promote it. Honestly, guys, this is what I want to do with my life now. Like, if I'm really honest, do the calibration one-on-one sessions. I love those because to me it's like, the best shit. And also write a book, which will be my message to the world, and then go promote it. And because why? It's because I want more of that stuff, because it's good stuff. You know? And so each book is going to be the message that I think that is most important to the entire society. That's my contribution to society. You know what I'm saying? Because we have to contribute to society, because if you see the society is just kind of retarded, it's because it's not really being maintained well, right? Obviously. So you have to do your best to maintain well, right? You know why I said that just live the best life possible outside of you? And if you do that, and whatever you need to do to protect your right to do that, that's it, right? And that protection side of it, by the way, takes care of that part where you need to be adult about it, right? So we talked about the logos being the father energy, and logos and eros being the father and the mother energy there, the source. But logics is what runs the mind, okay? And then you have something in between the soul magic and the mind magic world, which is more like a sons and daughters types of things, right? This is other types of energies, which are just playful, childish, and creative, right? those are the type of interactions that's going on there. It's like kids interacting, being free. Because there's another part of you that took care of that side, so you could be a child because you also have the adult side of it. Does that make sense? And there seem to be in the world of the mind, which is physical reality essentially, you have to be an adult there, or a father if you're a man there, which is, you got to make sure of how you make money, what kind of systems you build around yourself, are they reasonable, logical? Because it is logical right now to live more and more sustainably. You have a capacity to live more and more sustainably. It's very logical, conclusion, looking at everything what's going on, that we have to move towards more of, self-independence. We have to have that self-independence in the physical world, and then you can even say like total dependence on everybody else in the world of the heart. And so there's that selflessness and selfishness, so to speak, that is appropriate. Everything that you say has a place. You see what I'm trying to say? Everything that you say has a place. But a little bit of too much or too little of that is not okay. So there. So that's what we have. And so then that magic world, which is the world of a child, is the world of magic. That's where the child is actually the one that creates and plays, and that father energy is more just framework for the child to be able to play. But that's just that adult game and that child game. And so we also have to play those games, the adult game and the child game. And we also have to play those games in the soul world and in the mind world. Right? We have to enjoy physical games and stupid shit that we like to do, to play. But at the same time, we got to be an adult and make sure that you take care of the best framework, like where to live, where's the best place to live in the world. You see this like up and coming, spoiler alert, Texas, so Texas has a potential to have a renaissance, like intelligence renaissance. You see, like also there's a lot of people live rightfully by facing life there, and so you can see there's like becoming this gravity point for a lot of these types of people who are interested in truth and keep on realigning themselves with truth. And that's what seems to be happening in Texas. And that's why I'm choosing Texas from the logical perspective. But then there's also these other types of logos-based perspectives, the energy and all that stuff. And here in this place, in this jungle, is where I sort of learn to be more of an adult kind of thing. Because there's no adult framework in the jungle, I have to build this whole, system, which is essentially me. It's just the way this village is going to function. That frame, and so that pressures me to learn how to be a father figure for in these types of conditions where there's no government and just completely depending on the jungle. So that gives me pressure to become more of that. And sometimes it's a little too much, but like it's not too much, but it's more that I'm sometimes saddened to see that it's just me, and then maybe two other people that I actually see them doing this. I have a couple of neighbors here who get this also, and they are already living this lifestyle, you know. But just like me, I'm not disconnected from the digital world and the corporate world. That's also important. And so, for example, in Texas, too, you already have the framework that is pretty good, and there's a lot of people are making sure that that frame stays truthful and truth aligned, and reason aligned, and logic aligned. There's a lot of men out there that are like that. So, so the frame is pretty decent. Of course, it has its own flaws and whatever, but it's the best frame that America has. Texas is the best frame because it's all independent, doesn't give a shit about anything else. It already has its own abundance and culture, and you know, all these even show business is much more quality there. So now, of course, there is this a bit of a woke virus there as well, infected like more, TikToky places, but there seems to be there's this resistance to that type of shit, and it's just keeping that under check, and not letting that to spread too much. There's that check, like Cesar Milan doing with dogs. It's just like, tsk, okay, you had enough. This is bullshit now. Tsk. And so that cannot expand there. Whereas in California, there's no strong father figure. The law is fluid. It just fucking changes every fucking moment, whatever you want. Like, oh, it fits this agenda. Oh, let's change it. Oh, it fits that agenda. Oh, let's change it. And so it's just like there's no father figure in California right now, but there's a very strong father figure energy in Texas. So that's my prediction, that Texas is going to be an example how to live. And so that in Texas, it would be a pressure off my shoulders because the framework is already there. I just have to make sure that the framework keeps on, and I have to contribute to that to make sure that the framework stays nice and tight and right. That is more conducive to sustainability, renaissance, cultural explosion, innovations. Like, you see what I'm trying to say? I would like to see Texas like the heart of science, technology, like this project of Garden of Eden, type of stuff where you have everything that you need in one place, and that's how humans supposed to be living, right? More, but not that like that is against how people in a city live, and whatever. No, the corporate world can also be fixed. And like I said, my cutoff is corporate responsible for the hardware, but not allowed to touch software. That's my cutoff, and that's like the type of idea that I will try to sell it to the society as this being a great idea. Because it is, because I think that's what keeps corpo world in check, and then they don't have access to manipulating the minds. Does that make sense? And then they have to depend on really the quality product and not hypnotic suggestions, but the quality of the product. And really honestly compete with other people that produce value, and that friendly competition on producing more and more value there. That's corporate world. That's a ideal corporate world for me. And so I love that side. You see, like that corpo and the nomad. And so here I'm a nomad. Over there, I'm corpo. Because it's major, this type of work. Here, for example, like I don't want to have a company in Mexico. And I want to have a company in Texas. Here I want to have a community. Here I want to have a but not some fruity community that we all gather around some one thing to worship, like some guru or whatever. No, this is just like a cool way of living, like independent way of living. And I know for a fact that all these people who are like in the real estate right now and they're doing this corporate side thing is fine, but that's gonna get a hit. You're gonna get a gut punched there. I'm ready to get gut punched. You see? But I don't know what they're gonna do. But at the same time, like, I left too early and I left too aggressively. I see that, like, oh, I can still play the corpo game because I know what's coming. I can play the corpo game still. I'll be fine. And so I shouldn't have just completely left the corpo game. But that's what I did. I had a goal. Also, my goal was at first, just have this companies and whatever. And then the goal was like, how do I not to belong to this economy completely, because it has to be completely reinvented for me to be interested in playing this game. You see, because it's important to understand that whenever incentives of the game are corrupt, the winner is a corrupt entity. You see, so the answer is that I'm not gonna play this game. I'm gonna go where I can change the rules of the game, and I want to play by those rules, and I want other people to play by those rules, so we can have a fair, nice, friendly game and enjoy it. That's when this place becomes a learning experience. Until that, we really have right now the experience of it's a type of learning, but we're learning to be adults now. And then when we are good adults, only then we can allow ourselves to be children again. And so that's what we all need. And I know, like I said, in my life, it was very clear to me that I put so much attention on this logos thing, and not much externally. But that's what brings me about these freaking time cycles, guys. Like this, see, this is also what I want to have as part of the general awareness, because that's what's really going on. Not like time fractals are real. I would like to look into them because I feel them. They do exist. They're real. And I know that somebody already kind of created that type of consciousness clockwork. There's some work done in the harmonic calendar, which is kind of decent, but I still have not overlapped that calendar onto my direct experience. I still have not seen the pattern sort of recognizing there. So I'm not sure about that, but I think that they're trying to get this something across, that there are time cycles, and those bring challenges to us based on the time. So that's why, like a tarot, whoever is reading tarot, and they're doing it based on the current time, because they tune in to that current time fractal that is happening right now, because we all get to experience this at the same time, presumably. So we're dealing with the same energy at the same time. Perhaps not everybody, but the ones that are in your vicinity, definitely, right? And so that's recognizing, okay, this is the particular time fractal that we're dealing with. These are the aspects of this time fractal. These are the aspects of the time fractal for this person being here, in relationship to this time fractal. There's going to be all sorts of people that's somewhere in the journey that's still going in a backwards in the wrong way, and they're all going to be, ordered perfectly. That's why it affects each single person to stimulate their growth and learning the same way. But you can be playing there's levels to this game, and you can be playing somewhere. But the challenge is there already coded. And so it's not going to be different. That is very, very predictable. And so then again, I said, like, when somebody's reading tarot like that in the real time, then they may be presenting that time fractal and talking about that particular time fractal. Okay, so it's very important. So if that is the case, because then the person may be talking about it's like, okay, I feel the same thing what you are saying, because we're in the same time fractal, and perhaps we're playing the same game, and so then I know what's up, right? And so you can take the tarot card, but the tarot card is going to be exactly of what's happening at that particular time fractal, not random. You see, that divination randomness game is a illusion. It's just like, oh, get lost in the world of thoughts. That's what it is. But if you're real, you know that these cards are orderly, one after another comes time cycles. You have these, you can divide it in 12, which is like zodiac signs. You can divide it in 4, which is, you can say like a directions, and so the time fractal has a structure, and the whole game is that the time fractal will always give you these types of challenges: the soul challenge and the mind challenge, right? And the soul challenge is to calibrate that energy and produce it into a kind of, calibrate and harmonize, as I say, to produce it into some quality experience and a feeling. This is what your soul does. That music that it creates, that's the child side of the soul, that playful, that just creates those, beautiful fractals being spontaneous. Okay. And then in the mind, there's going to be another time fractal challenge to actually deal with it on the mental plane. It would be like, okay, here's your challenge. Okay, here's how the mind world is ordered right now. Okay, we got to change that. You go into the phase state and you rearrange that differently according to the challenge that was presented to you. See, this one is very, very healthy to understand, that we play the game on both sides. We do the soul thing, but then we also do the mind thing, which includes the body, and the soul thing includes the spirit, right? It is this type of understanding the game between the soul and the mind, and the particular attributes that each one has, right? And so then you take care of this. Okay, I have to be an adult in my soul, and I have to be a child in my soul. Great. Okay, and I have to be adult in my mind, in physical reality, and I also have to be a child here. All right, cool, right? So we know what the fuck is going on. And then there's another layer to it, looking from another perspective, the masculine feminine thing. Okay, so that would be the dashboard of this video game, and I'm gonna do my best to illustrate it in my book. But that dashboard already exists. It must already exist. I'm just like picking up on its existence. This is why I'm saying this as a concept. But that's how consciousness is, and it has its structure. And I think it is important to start seeing that structure and understanding what is happening at each particular moment, right? Knowing exactly what is going on, because you're taking care of this level and that level of consciousness. And I know it may sound like, oh my god, there's so many freaking things to take care of, but like, I think if we do it right, sequentially, step by step, it is not overwhelming at all. It must not be overwhelming, because the better you play the game, the easier it gets. Not that there's no intensity, but it's easier to you to go through the intensity right now. Okay, so it is about keep on improving, of playing the game better, right? So if you keep playing the game better, then the consequence is going to be that you are playing the game better, obviously, right? So, and that's usually an experience. Like, first, for example, I may see somebody like dancing, And they say like, my God, this like, and from the man perspective, it's like, this guy's kind of barely moving, you know? It's just like pum 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 pum. It's like, that's easy, right? But every step they make is perfectly timed with music. There's some, you know, sense involved of, you see what I'm trying to say? Like, so the person is in the groove, and there's some art that's going on and the science at the same time. That's why I love dancing, because it's a speed learning experience of state control and frame control as a man and as a woman. Like, it's amazing. Like, I think that is something that is definitely part of my culture, and part of this village culture, hence their fourth. So yeah, for sure, because you talk shit out, you can talk it out there. It's an environment where you can talk shit out for real, because in the mind you won't resolve nothing, right? Talking like literally by words and just in the mind, you don't resolve it, but you resolve it there. You confront each other's energy, and there's already work there cut out for you to connect. And if both of you kind of want the same thing, is to work shit out like energetically on a dance floor, then this is the best thing that you can do to grow on that soul and mind level, because you're going to have to figure out of how to move as well, right? There has to be a rhythm, there has to be, so the mind is very involved there on both sides. A woman must learn of how to be sort of move in a more like a pliable and a fluid structure, and provide that energy and ease for the mind to create whatever it's trying to create, which is the language. And every move I make, every move you make. Anyway, every move you make is a type of word, a letter, a sentence, a paragraph. You're communicating something there, you know? And so I'm just learning to speak this language to the point where when I'm dancing, I just speak it spontaneously. I don't try to structure the dance at all. And I trust that on the next step, I will have the move ready for me, because I have a library of that. I already built my my tree of knowledge, right? This is what tree of knowledge is for, that horizontal development. You see? And well, I'm not saying that I can see myself maybe not being fluent yet in that particular dance. I was in like a 40% there. I'm 40% there, but I know that there's another level that I have to specifically place attention and contribute some of my energy there for me to go to that next level. I already see that next level, but I'm not attributing the energy there for now. Like, I could, but now I'm fine where I am right now, and I'm trying to, get the most that I can from where I am right now. So look, we have this change, the work that we do in the mental world and in a spiritual world. Astral is not spiritual world; it's a mental world. So we have to work on that side and this side. And every time you change something on the mind world, for example, right? And for example, you move to one particular place, or you end up being with one particular person, but when you made it to more coherent reality, different timeline, that place and that person doesn't exist there. You created that in another timeline. So maybe, just maybe, it is first more important, to stabilize yourself in the coherence, to stabilize yourself in the heart first, to take care of that plant, right? Because it solidifies. The more you do this calibration work, the more solidifies, the more you start feeling and seeing things wherever they are. Like the clues are all around you, then it's like, okay. And in my case, the clues were that I have to go back to Cali and find a way from Cali to Texas. That's my, personal story thing, right? And now I know what to do and where my timeline can even unfold. And only there it is possible to live my ideal timeline. You see what I'm trying to say? So I cannot not do it. I have to do it. And there's also something that's going on in Italy that also I have to attend, because over there was this coherence source, famous Renaissance of the 15th, 16th century, where that coherence sprouted. And that coherence was also known to exist in ancient Egypt, in an ancient original Maya culture, not for those last 2,000 years. I'm sorry, there was not a Maya culture, not the original Maya culture. So say it's a corrupt version of that. Same thing with Egypt. But those pyramids were used at some point and served the purpose. But now they don't, because I guess the energy has shifted. And now I guess the plan of this game is to find coherence not through architecture that much, even though some of it should still be used in architecture of the building. For example, right now I'm in a dodecahedron, basically. Am I in a deca? Okay, probably. But there is 12 pillars. It's feng shui. It has a cone, and so everything's half open, like I'm sitting in a spaceship. And outside of this, all I see is nature. And so that's how it's designed, and it's round, but it also has geometry because it has pillars. Pillars, as you know, creates this toroidal field energy. And so this building is built on a small scale to really facilitate this type of awesome energy flow in your heart and your soul. So if you want to do the alchemy work, and in theurgy work, this is the place. This is the place. However, I have another building that is actually A shape or triangle shape. That is mind, right? This is circle, so there's that triangle, which is mind. It's very peculiar shape. And then, of course, I have a big square going on. And that is, your body. This is called palace. The triangle is called temple. And the big building, this old square, like traditional square, is the castle. And it's going to look like a castle. And that is going to look like a temple, but not traditional temple. It's just going to be so anyway, so that's just a little bit about how architecture on a small scale could impact and be relevant to what you're trying to do. Okay, so if I want any kind of work done, I go to this triangle, and then my mind can focus, and then I can do the mind work and organizing things, because everything is in those types of lines over there, right? So it stimulates my mind and engages my mind energetically, and so that's how I do the most work. And so this is my experimental architecture to see how it's going to affect my mind. But it has, almost 4 meters high glasses, like very tall, and just pure glass and complete openness with the nature. And then there's a balcony that is like, I don't know, what is it, 5 meters, like a massive balcony that you'll be able to have as a basically your botanical gardens. You're just gonna come out and you're gonna see the jungle, right? The coconuts growing there in the jungle, and then there's all sorts of plants growing in your botanical garden in your balcony. So you're just completely surrounded by these beautiful things that you're growing, and at the same time it provides like an environment for the dinners, and you see what I'm trying to say, and even parties and pool parties and whatever, right? That's the type of design that I'm going for, to create the most type of experience. Now, this palace already does that. When people come in, they immediately moved into their heart. They move into their heart. This place is just pressuring you to move into your heart, kind of not letting you, because if you don't, it's going to, not be pleasant. So anyway, so I think that's where, and I'm going to have a podcast with an architect, by the way, and I'm going to talk about just exactly that, of how we culturally supposed to, um, you know, talk about building buildings, and architects, and having architects that are like that, who consider all of that energetic thing, and saying, okay, what is the purpose of this building? Because it's going to be activities of the soul, activities of the mind, and activities of the body, and so that's how we're going to shape everything according to those things. And I have two domes here as well, just not finished. But then again, it's that roundness, and so that's going to be bringing people in their heart. But I also, next to the dome, created a you know a more square type of environment for more of a focused work, you know. But I also have a great idea to have a desk and overlooking, because everything at the top and the second um, story of that dome, you get to see all of the jungle, and at a pretty high altitude, because I have a base. The dome is not on the floor. It's already like, lifted like 1.5 meters up in the air. Um, and then you have 6 meter high. So then you may be sitting like 7 meters high above the ground, and overlooking the entire jungle. And you have a big, massive, round desk made of wood, and there's like, I don't know, fuck, there's not better like a control center, and all open skies for you to see. It is like, it's like the ultimate freaking workspace of a creator or something, I think it combines the mind and the soul there, and you get to look at the stars while you're doing your thinking, the real thinking that is useful. The real thinking, but it's useful, by the way, is, creating the forms in your imagination that are required. So anyway, so that's my dream desk, my workstation. That's my dream workstation. Oh, this is it. This is it. See? So, now, but no longer these big monumental buildings that had an impact back then. Apparently we're not going that way, but we are doing it small scale in each little house. We're using architecture and a structure to conduce this type of energy, because it's real, it's measurable, it's real. It's not somebody doing some nonsensical or gibberish spell or whatever the fuck they're doing. You can sense it. It is very, very real, palpable. Okay. So going back to that, playing the game on the soul and the mind. Oh my god, it's 1 hour and 20 minutes. Shit, I babble a lot. I guess that's enough. So that's pretty much the things to take care of. You have your man side in the soul and your man side in the body as a man to take care of. And the same thing, woman. This is why like the heroine's journey and the hero's journey is very compatible, but it's not the same at all. It's not the same at all. That's why like men supposed to stop resolving the feminine challenges and women stop trying to resolve masculine challenges. It's backwards. Like that's one of the things. So and again, like you say, the error that you can make is between the boundary of your soul and the mind. That's where you're not paying enough attention. Or between masculine and the feminine, and that's when you're not paying attention. So it's just like this way and that way. See what I'm trying to say? And that's the difference between the polarity and the gender. Okay? Polarity deals with the soul world and the mind world. That's actually like the polar opposite, the true polar opposite. But the gender is not the polar thing. It is this type of thing between, it's like sounded very scientific. It's not this type of thing, but it's that type of thing. But you know what I mean. It's not polar. It is like axis based, right? It's always trying to reconcile each other and find the way back to itself. And if man plays man role and woman plays woman role, then that can happen. That's again, this is why anything against the natural way of things is just ain't right. And it's not the opinion, it's just how the physics are built. Like that's why the thing, you gotta respect the physics of consciousness, if you will. You gotta respect that, because if you listen to it, good things happen to you. So there. That's my little rant. Oh, there's one thing I forgot to mention about this focus. I think I steered off a little bit. The focus 10, focus 12, focus 15. It's very important to denominate the meaning of that, because it's something means very important. Like I said, the focus 10 is when you're out of the body, where your body's asleep and the mind is awake, and so your body is now in a phase, right? And you just, and it's, in fact, that's what actually happens. For you to become aware in phase, you got to have your body online in that state. That's essentially what it is. Your computer must come online in that state. Okay? And so that's focus 10. Then, presumably, because that's the starting point, you can go anywhere in mind from that point. But one of the layers of that phase reality that seems to be real is actually the first one, but it does not mean that we often go into that place. Actually, in my experience, that's not common. The Focus 12 is not that common, and I think a lot of people go to Focus 15 and they think they're in the Focus 12, because Focus 12 has something very specific. And in my lexicon, I call it phase 2. There's a phase 1, which is that Focus 10 state, mind awake, body asleep, as Bob called it, right? And so then the Focus 12 becomes something very specific. And you know what it is? It is the restriction of space removed, meaning that you can be in this real time that is happening right now in the same place where your body, physically is in the real time, because it's going to have to simulate that real time, because you're actually going to be in a time where you can move freely, but you are just basically specifically selecting to be and can move in any place in space in that particular experience of time. So time is restricted still, and you restrict that time to the current real time. And so that is Focus 12. So it is quite special, actually. And you have to be able to just leave your body in a real time, and it's happening right now, and be able to interact with and not to deviate from that time. It's not easy. It's because you have to be really good at isolating only the space change and not the time. So Focus 12 is actually more superior than Focus 15 in my case, or a lot of people too, because you have to learn how to specifically be in the real time. And it seems that for Bob it was natural, and that Focus 12 was the first thing that he was experiencing. It was just like he would just pop out of the body, see his own body, fly around the room, and then see what neighbors are doing, in real time, and then obviously play around with that thing to freak the people that he knows. He said, "Oh, you've been spying on me," right? Like, so you essentially, nothing is quite off limits for you in this reality, space wise, but limited by time. Then you can do the time removal of time limitations, but in that particular phase experience, there's going to be a particular type of quality of consciousness, and that is going to be limiting of what kind of timeline could you even visit. That's why the people who are functioning from this particular level of consciousness, and they're seeing the future, that is only in their particular timeline. They're picking up only their particular timeline and their particular coherence. But if you keep on alchemizing the energies and keep on going on more and more coherent, that may not even be relevant anymore. You see? So there's that limitation of time, and I call it phase 3 layer, where you can remove time as well. So now that you have removed time and space, you can go anywhere in space and time. Right? But you're restricted with that level of coherence. If you go into a higher level of coherence, you're gonna visit those realities that have that high level of coherence. And then within those high level of coherence, you may have some degree of freedom within the mind of what kind of things you want there. Okay? So again, I don't know, maybe it's like an experiment, maybe it's just the way it is. I'm prioritizing coherence. And again, that doesn't mean that you are like avoiding people. No, it's actually the opposite. You should actually go out there with as many people as possible in order to pick up any kind of distance in your heart between, your fellow kind of thing, So the alchemical work is done with people. Okay. You know. So there. But then there's another reality where you take your mind with you. You've taken your body in the phase, but then you take your phase, which is your mind and the body, that is, more the movement of it is less restricted, and you pop into this causal or plasma reality, as I call it, and then over there, you get the same freaking thing. You get this plasma 1 level, which is a launching pad in this causal reality, in this soul reality. You see? And spirit. But now you have your mind and the body there. So now you can change not what's happening within the mind, but the entire mind itself. And that is the time unlocking timelines that did not existed before. But in order for you to go to that level of coherence, you got to slay some demons. You got to go through like a lot of those separations between the yin and the yang, between you as a man and a woman that is just your fellow, human being, and that feminine essence in all types of women, and having that good relationship with all of them, and working shit out like that on a soul level. And so that's how I see it sometimes. And then you say like, well, I didn't do anything to really split us apart. No, you didn't. Again, these are the time fractals, these are the challenges. Nobody's at fault for that separation. But the only thing that you can do is start working off that reunion. And so, yeah, sometimes I feel it where that connection is very close and where that connection is quite like distance. And so then I have to really find out like, okay, what's up, and then resolve it, even though I didn't do shit about it. That may be the time fractal that's, from the past, that bringing up all that crap within people, and now you have to figure out how to do it. And so you navigate this world like that, And this is why, like, sometimes people, they may connect and they fall in love and whatever, and there's everything. But then as soon as the darkness comes over and the separation, now let's see if you can keep on fighting for love. You see? Yeah. And then you may have an experience of, for example, how I have, where I'm fighting for that coherence thing, At least I recognize this as a primary value, as what the love is it's that thing, right? Or what the light is that coherence, and what love would be that field and that energy at the base of everything as love, and them two kind of dancing. To me, that's the most important thing. To me, that has to happen first. And of course, by this definition, because I'm choosing that, then I'm choosing reality where other people are also doing the same thing, because I am doing it. And so the people who are not doing this may just fall off. They may fall off, they may come back, we don't know. But you're basically saying, I want to select my ideal timeline. I want to live my base reality where I could just, be done at being or working hard to be an adult, and then I could be, because I took care of that part, not that I abandoned it, because I took care of that part. Now let's create and play, because there's an adult system that around you. Like I said, like, for example, in Texas, it would give me a break on one end. It would give me a break of not trying to to keep the lights on in a jungle environment, and that will give me more energy, because that's taken care of. And of course, I'll make sure to contribute that is taken care of with my imagination and mind powers. And as long as that is taken care of and corruption is being reduced and not increased, I'm fine. And so then I can focus all of my energy to other things that are necessary for me to focus on, and that's the corporate type of game. And that is how to make money, by producing tangible value, not software value. I don't want to go into any of those things. And I also include, like, you can sell books, of course, because but books is type of like reimbursement is like out of respect to an author. And I really would like to see, and there are publishers who like author is the boss and they're just to provide service. And so these are the ones that I'm gonna obviously be looking for, because I think there are publishers who just understand their role and like, you're the boss here, we are just providing a service and you're getting the cut because of this. Whereas these other, they say, well, the terms and conditions is that, like, no, I'm the boss, I own your shit, right? And you just this little dispensary of information that people happen to like, no, fuck you, no, not to these types of publishers. And that includes also like a big corpus and stuff like that. They have to change that tune, and they have to understand that they're providing the service and author is the boss, and he gets the most money and they get the cut, right? And that the author has the rights and not the publisher. That's also ridiculous. What are you talking about? The publisher has the pathways to distribute your work, and that's the value. It's a valuable thing that you don't have to create your own pathways to distribute your work, and you still try and say, which you could do and you should do, because they're distributing their on that side, you're distributing this side. Maybe you go on talk on podcasts and whatnot, and just make sure you hit every single one while they are publishing your book or whatever work you're trying to release. I think that's genuinely of how you do the promotion of your work. But don't fucking sell your rights. Like, I hate to see these authors sell rights, and now, like, no, how can you, like, Michael Jackson was an icon, he was an author of all of his work, he's the owner, always will be. And so to claim that some Sony corporation has the rights and ownership of what Michael Jackson created, fuck you. This is bullshit. This is straight out bullshit. They should never have ownership and the rights. They should have a cut from the capacity of distribute your work. They should get the cut, and that would be the deal. And you remain legitimate owner of your work. That's how I'm going to structure everything. And I will never, and I'm sure that I will still find the publisher who wants to do this on a fair game scenario. If not, I'll find other ways. But no, bad deal is a bad deal. Don't take the bad deal just because it's commonly accepted. I think Arnie, in one of his movies, he actually said, like, no, I want to own part of this, like, and so he got like a percentage of the rights that does not normally happen, but that's how it should be happening, and hopefully it is. It's of course, then nobody would argue who has like two neurons connected that this is how it's supposed to be structured, right? So going back to this plasma reality, now you have the same thing there. You're going to have those two limitations there. One is going to be like the level of the coherence and intensity, and another one is what kind of theme it is being expressed into. So that's what you'll find. I think you can call this like the patterning, which would be the kind of representation of space, and the energy side, which would be representation of time. It's still those two forces that exist there. And we can limit there and just look for the patterning there, because we want to explore the patterning in that particular, level of coherence. And you know what, guys? I just realized something. My God. Whoa. Oh shit. It's not what it seems to be going on. I don't think that we're selecting timelines as much as we are resolving the other ones. It's almost like you have to find a way to resolve the the incoherent timelines, which means that you would have to find like the most compatible type of energy state that is required for that, and that you can say like, what, that's resolved now. And then for that, and that's why it's just you have to keep on calibrating, and it's the game, and it never ends, and it's the most delicious game there is. It does have an end where those problems are more sort of like resolved, and you get so good at it. And there are times where you already went through like one cycle of time and you dealt with all of those, then you already corrected for that, and you, like people say, like learn the lessons. And so I think that it's not about that much of going for the ideal timeline as resolving the ones that are not ideal, get you closer and closer to the ideal timeline. And so there's almost like a versions of the reality that you found the way to do the best in, meaning that there is a version of the incoherence that like you have not yet found an answer. And so that's what I recognize in my life, that life brings me those things. It's like, hey, you have not found an answer in this particular one yet, so here's this particular time. And that's why things were so weird lately, because I was jumping timelines, but not like to just find the ideal timeline and ignore all the other ones. I was jumping to them to face some shit there, and then to have an opportunity to resolve the situation there. And there's that type of like, what do I do in this case and what do I do in that case, right? And so I'm trying to, and so I'm changing, man, like, because I'm not chasing that ideal timeline, but I'm just going on to this like really challenging ones and dealing with that. And and just trying to do my best. And sometimes like, okay, I have to set the boundary here, and it's like, oh yeah, maybe I'll need to adjust a little bit for that boundary, right? Because yeah, you have to find that balance between the boundary and flexibility. And but you have to correct the mind side and the soul side, and that's the whole game. You have to correct for it. And that's sometimes like what I would be kind of pissed off, and finding something that is not patterned well, like for example people who do not keep their word, right? That's just the patterning of this particular reality. in your particular reality, there are people who do not keep the word. So don't blame the person, which is you. Then you take things personally, which I have been doing, and then you come to realize that, like, oh, wait a second, no, that's my responsibility. You see? And so there's you become an adult in the world of the mind and do what you need to do there, and become an adult in the world of the soul and do what you need to do there. And so one thing that I think I was wrong about is like not bothering to find the best pattern of the mind with that particular timeline. That is like, oh, it's going to change anyway, right? I don't think that's right. I think that that particular challenge will still come back in another time cycle where it's just going to challenge you with, hey, here's this timeline and this particular thing that you have not yet resolved, and that may be that you avoided, like, to fixing things externally, and that was the solution to that is some sort of frame control thing that would have taken care of the situation. And that's usually, it's like, how do you repattern the mind. So you take responsibility for even the people in your life. You meet them, they do something wrong. You may say, they're like, hey, this is not right. And at the same time, reimagine them doing things correctly and rightly. You change the patterning, because that's your game. And that's what Neville meant, like, they don't really have any kind of free will. Because if you imagine them better, right, and more aligned to sanity, and and you can make a person punctual, whereas he was never punctual before. I think this is the thing that I gave a little bit too much free will for people. And then, because then you end up kind of blaming them. So like, well, they're supposed to take care of, like, nah, that doesn't work like that. They're not going to do this for you. Like, it's your life, it's your game. You want to change it, reimagine it. Just reimagine it, and you would have done your work. And so that's why sometimes we go through life, and like, that challenge comes along. Like in this particular time of year, I had this challenge again, and I was like, whoa, these are like old thoughts again. Like, I thought we're done with these, but turns out, no, you're not done with that. And so now there's that challenge again. Deal with it internally, deal with it externally in the correct way with that particular challenge. If you resolve that particular on both sides, then you don't come back to it. That timeline has been resolved. And that's how you move up the coherence ladder, so to speak. And it doesn't seem like it lets you go just because you found like internal solution to it. It does not let you go because you have not yet found external solution to it. So it's going to bring you back again. You see? And so it's like here that I try to resolve something. It's always like, first, the internal solution that has to be found, the coherence about that thing, and then come up with the solution, because I have all sorts of things to deal with. Termites, for example, because here the problem is with the flying termites. It has a name, but I don't remember what it's called. And now I have to find the resolution, right? And so coherence first about it, because it pisses me off. Well, it used to piss me off. Now it doesn't, because I already calibrate that thing. But now I have to arrange things in the mind and reimagine things structurally here, how not to have this type of problem again, because I can just change the entire roof and make it metal because it's made out of wood and leaves, which is the most beautiful and very breathing type of environment. But it doesn't need to have upgrade. And I have a way of how to have like a leaf roof, but with less maintenance, and of course make it last way longer with this idea that I have. And one of the ways, for example, not to have this problem with the flying termites is to install the this guy the freaking fan, but 360 fan that creates, and powerful enough, that creates this airflow that's covering all of those you know structures, these freaking, what do you call them, trunks, because that's where the traffic is, and that will obstruct the traffic and make it very difficult and sort of not worthy to prefer this wood over the wood that is outside, because it's just like you can't travel through it, you're just gonna blown from it. And you see what I'm trying to say, to create a problem for these flying termites. And another idea, if this doesn't work, or like in the daytime you have this air, and it's also this air will take care of all these leaves and reduce the freaking dust. It will reduce the dust because the dust won't be able to accumulate, and they're all going to be sort of like pushed inside on the sides of this building, which can be cleaned, because then the dust are more organized and packed into one particular place, and it's not distributed all over the place, you see. So that's it sort of takes care of this problem. And in maybe in the night I can turn on the zapper light, which attracts them, and so in the night where this only thing that you see is this light, then they have no choice but to fly there and meet their maker. So that's like horrible conditions for the termites to exist here, and I don't have to fumigate, I don't have to go into war with them. It's just like one elegant solution that's going to take care of the problem. And that came to me after. So there's, you see, like, I'm kind of proud of this solution, honestly, like because it's just improving things. This challenge that was there, but I could keep on fighting with that. I can do 2 little changes and it just improves the entire place. And it not only solves the termite problem, but also makes everything else better. There's a type of solution that I love. Okay, sorry about talking about my situation, but I use it as an example where you can resolve the problems kind of elegantly, out of the box, and and so on. And we have so much experience of how to build these beautiful buildings, but they last longer, and using all sorts of technology tricks that they didn't have before to keep it much tidier and much more comfortable. But I have a lot of nature here, like this place is not typical. Like it's this very open with nature. So it's just a type of place, and I like it. You see, it's you there's only so far you can go to kind of isolate this place, because this place is not isolated. But you can create an environment here that is the most comfortable for humans, but not the other types of kind of animals, right? And I have like these little lights, not the lights, but ultra sound. I have these ultrasound devices turned on all over this place that repels on different frequencies to repel the bugs. So it reduces the bug population significantly here, and all these little tiny animal. It doesn't completely eliminate, but it reduces significantly. And so that's how there's another trick of how to control your environment. So that's what I'm saying, that you as a person, you can live in the nature with technology very closely integrated, very comfortably. So anyway, so these are little challenges that I have that on my end. And that's the game. That's the game that we play. And when you recognize that, then what's left to do but play it? And that is, I'm sure that is how it works. And then after plasma, you go into the divine spark and void, the pure energy, the source of everything, the source code, and the energy, the source for the energy and the source for the code. And over there, you don't have layers per se. You have infinite possibilities. But how are you going to explore something out of infinite? Through soul, through preference, and try to find a solution for this particular thing. And that's how you say, like, well, I am this right now, and then boof, the challenge is there, and now you have to become that, and you become that. They say, like, I am this right now. Okay, now what about this one? And then you become that. Now I'm this right now. And so you keep becoming exactly of what the system is requiring you to do. And that is essentially the game that we play. And we have like these more incoherent timelines, and you have to deal with them. If you've never dealt with that, you're going to have to deal with that. And so that's why, like, you're gonna have to stand up to your bullies. I'm still doing this to this day, like, learning of how to handle a bully type of energy. And I got really good at it, by the way. And like, but there's a way of how to handle that. Because the bully kind of evokes a certain type of protective masculine structure, so it kind of tempers you as a man. So bully actually, but you gotta become that thing that does not become a bully. You cannot fight a bully by being a bully. Then you're just a fucking bully. Two bullies fighting, that's not it. So you got to meet that bully energy, which is fire, match the fire, and then go into the water. And then the bully energy is checked for and crashes, because when the fire cannot go into the anger, because there's not that you cannot go there, because you created an environment that is at the highest point of fire going into the water, which is infinity. and most bullies cannot go there. And when you take them there, they get scared, and because they're scared of infinity, and then they go immediately into fear, and then they go into also coping mechanisms. Okay? But then when you go into the fear, you also have to become a little bit more, softer. You can't just freak them out so much that they go into the anger again with somebody else. So you got to meet them at this end and say, like, okay, there's nowhere to go here because I've been all the way, and let's not go there, and then so they don't, and they snap into the fear. But then you go there, it's like, hey, don't go too far into this either, because it's all good. There's no actual threat to you. I'm not interested in threatening you. It was just like this idea in your head. It wasn't real. And so then they can get stabilized a little bit, and you get to learn of how to be that father energy, and the brother. You get to learn that, and you have to learn how internally with the state control of how to meet that energy challenge. And the same thing, you gotta understand how do you control your frame, and what do you do in those situations externally. And sometimes, like, in that moment where they snap into fear, but then you pick them up and say, like, hey, it's all good. Like, they have to see that there was no threat, so then they really relax and they come back into this alignment again. Whereas before it was hate, anger, fear, and then back into neutrality. And this is where you want to take them back into neutrality, and for them to realize, like, oh shit, like I was just having bandits in a bunch for nothing, and so it's all chill again. But you have demonstrated a real benevolent father capacity, and not creating another tyrannical structure out of it. So that's the challenge. And what they learn is also, they learn not to jump above their navel and sort of like be at the level of their development where they're at. And now they learn from the example of how to be a better benevolent father. There's a fatherly energy there, but it is benevolent. It wants to put things back in neutrality, not into war and conflict, and not propagating that thing. So you gotta learn externally how to deal with that, and internally. Cecil Milan is really good with that. So there's that challenge there, you see. And I'm being challenged with all sorts of things here, and it makes me become more and more adult in those different places. And obviously not turn everything into war, because that's why cartels breed here, because of this energy pattern of this broken father energy. That's why. Because they don't have any other situations, because just go like, okay, so the one person thinks it's okay to steal because I deserve more, just because, without any contribution. So one is being an arrogant. But of course, eventually you hit somebody that's like, nah, you are not getting this, and they may even decide to kill you because you took something that doesn't belong to you and you assume that it does. And maybe in the people sometimes they're stubborn about like being criminal, or like, to me, for example, like it could be like a small little thing where they don't keep their word, and then it's just like a small little thing, and then another thing where they are actually committing frauds and shit like that, and it's a very bad idea to do this. But I have to learn of how to handle it in my state control and frame control, and to resolve the situation, without kind of escalation, but it has to be fair and just. You see? So that thing that has to be checked for. And actually, a person who is returned to this more balanced and more calm way of dealing it feels much better than before, because there's like, oh shit, yeah, I see how it works. Um, Definitely, you cannot do this, because that's not gonna bring me happiness by being crooked and corrupt for that. So people get checked and they don't go there anymore, because it was direct feedback that worked. You see. All right, guys, man. It's over 2 hours. I've never made a solo video that long, but that was my little rant. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and have a good evening. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.